Good morning. I think everyone knows I'm Keod Smith of renegotiate.org, and also in the past year as attorney for Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have called for this press conference today for the purposes of addressing a newspaper article that appeared on the front page of the Tribune yesterday. Some of the things that spoke to, perhaps some of the things that it addressed were, in Minister Farrakhan's view, and the view of all who knew better, to be defamatory, in that it spoke to things and made innuendos which were improper. And so Minister Farrakhan, who is on his way back to the United States, having spent a few days in Bimini, asked to have you here so that he could address you, to make comment on this, as well as to field questions from you for a short while. And now we just want to say as a precursor that there is a great possibility that the minister will leave shortly before 12 o'clock because he has to be at the airport to check in time to make a flight back to the United States. So let's see if we can keep the questions short, and let's be respectful of the fact that we are working a time schedule. Thank you. Now, I'll just say who is at the table. Of course, sitting just in front of the microphone is Minister, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. We have at the very end, at the northern end, is the Minister Farrakhan's son, Joshua. We also have next to Joshua, and in between Joshua and the minister is Mr. Nygard, the son of Peter Nygard. Of course, the minister, myself, and we have on my left, we have Dr. Santiago, Leroy Santiago. You will take note that he's wearing a beanie. He is Jewish, but also a scientist in agricultural matters that works with Mr. Nygard, that we will address in due course. So, with that, I relinquish the microphone to Minister Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, members of the press, thank you so very much for this opportunity and privilege to correct something that I heard about in the newspaper yesterday while I was in Bimini. First, I would like to thank the government and the people of the government and the people of the Bahamas for the kind and wonderful reception that I received since I've been here. As you may know, on my first day here, I was taken to the Clifton Heritage National Park as a guest of Mr. Vivian Wiley and Keod Smith and Beverly Smith, and those who had come to bring attention to this struggle to make this national park a place where tourists can come to see what Africans did and the memory of those that paid a price for Africans to be here in the Bahamas. Mr. Nygard, as I reported, offered his plane to bring me from Miami to Nassau. I deeply appreciated that offer. I never knew Mr. Nygard before, nor had I ever heard of him. But I was invited by Mr. Keod Smith to his home, and we had a very beautiful and enjoyable evening, which I mentioned there, and I also mentioned it in my lecture at the University of the Bahamas. I am a simple man, as I said. I travel all over the world, and everywhere I go to deliver a message that I believe will be helpful to the people wherever I go. I never go anywhere seeking sport or play or women. And I mention that in the context that I just don't go out. But because I was a guest of Keod Smith, and they had something in honor for me at Mr. Nygard's home. And I was blessed on that night to see the Junkanoo band and dancers, and to watch Bahamian people as I saw many years ago when I visited the Bahamas on Boxing Day on December the 26th, and I saw Junkanoo there for the first time. So to see the joy in the hearts and minds and spirit of the people as they danced, and to listen to the many testimonies of those that spoke very kindly of Mr. Nygard and what he had done to help so many people, particularly the golf, the volleyball, the track team, and other sports enthusiasts. So there I was in the midst of that, and afterwards I had or even before, I had a television interview with Wendell Jones and others, and the media was kind, but then it turned hostile. And even though we had a town hall meeting which was packed to the rafters with standing room only, Mr. Nygard was present, his children were present, his staff was present, and we spoke, and from that moment a friendship started, and it had nothing to do with what the Tribune suggests. Mr. Nygard and I discussed health. We discussed stem cell research. His son and I, we stayed up almost till 2 in the morning discussing sustainable agriculture, which we feel the Bahamas needs. So to suggest in a mischief-making way that Mr. Nygard invited me to his home to offer me women and play, but they quoted my words perfectly, but the spin that was put on my words was vicious and ugly and very untrue. So I thought that since I was in Bimini, and maybe they thought I had gone, that I would come and set the record straight by having this press conference. And so I will stop there and allow you to ask me any question that you have. Mr. Nygard's son is here. He heard every speech that I made while I was on the island. And so please ask me whatever questions may be on your heart. Would you name your media affiliation, please?
No question. Everything's perfect.
I'm sure there must be a question.
I'll just add a few things in the meantime while they're formulating the questions. Some of the problems that we have, obviously, with the Tribune, and I don't know if this is going into your microphones, but that we have with the Tribune is that when we were leading up to organizing this event, we had sent around, and some of you from the various media houses would have heard certain ads, radio ads in particular, that were being aired on the various radio stations. one of them which spoke to the hole in the wall and made reference to Mr. Bacon's comments that he made at the reception of the Audubon Society in New York, where he was receiving an award. And in this, a very pertinent and very almost surreal, because of the year we live in now, 2013, almost surreal comment, was Mr. Bacon spoke, and these were almost his exact words, where he was trying to be humble about having been named for this particular award. And he spoke about, he says, you know, as a Southerner, whenever I have these matters of trepidation, that would be my word, trepidation, that he looks to the Holy Book. And the Holy Book, he said, though, let me let you know that really when I say Holy Book, I mean Gone with the Wind. Now those were his words, and you can go to YouTube, he's on YouTube, he's saying those words. Those words were a part of the clip of this advertisement and this ad. And the 100 Jams, which we all know is an affiliate of the Tribune, wrote back to us and said, sorry, we cannot air that ad because we believe the reference to being a Southerner and Gone with the Wind is racist. So you renegotiate, you, Keod Smith, would have to revisit this in order for this to go on. Now mind you, they did say that if the words that were referred to was made in the public domain, that they would accept the ad. And we pointed them to the website of the Audubon Society as well as to YouTube, where it was played. And still, they did not allow our ad to put on, because they said that to play it would mean it's slanderous. Now, we don't need to get into the deep aspects of the law, but it is my take and it is my view that by saying this, the suggestion is that the Tribune actually is representing Louis Bacon and has an intention to represent Louis Bacon. This whole affair, which is the Clifton matter, as we all know, rose up or started because of this comment, or these comments that Mr. Bacon made. And so the Tribune has obviously taken a side, and the side is to support and maybe even hold brief for Mr. Louis Bacon. I have made it very clear that I believe Mr. Bacon is a liar, because I was there during the fight 14 years ago, and he was not there. He certainly did not lead me. And I think that it's unfortunate that an old newspaper such as the Tribune would take this kind of posture and attack not only a visitor to the Bahamas, but someone of the ilk of Minister Louis Farrakhan, who I believe, notwithstanding all of the twists and turns, Minister, that people might have tried to put on what he said and done over the years, we all saw him up close. Most of you who are here saw him up close or listened in, and you know that there was not one utterance that was anywhere near the kind of views that now you appear in the newspaper. We have copies of the email that came from 100 Jams. The newspaper purposefully put in this a photograph of Mr. Peter Nygard attending or dancing with a Junkanoo dancer. We've seen this all the time. I know of many religious leaders who dance with dancers. But guess what? Because you all might not have been at the function, I know that you wouldn't have been. We had no costuming like that. None. In fact, the costuming, people were dressed like the young man you see here standing up in a black shirt. And you'll see Mr. Williams here, who's dressed up in cloth with message. And so these things were suggestive, especially when you take out of context this comment about women and sending women. And so these things are so reprehensible that I've been now instructed by my client, Mr. Farrakhan, to take steps toward finding legal remedy and recourse for this. It is injurious. Minister Farrakhan is the spiritual and religious leader of an organization and of a group of people that frown on that kind of behavior. And so to say something like that and to give the impression that he was in the company of people who were even trying to make certain overtures is reprehensible. and I do on behalf of the Bahamian people, condemn the Tribune for having taken that side swipe at our in this case means Bahamians, at our guests. It was not warranted, and it was definitely out of context.